Hi, everybody.
Hello, I'm Ryan.
I'm Bethany.
And we are Ryan and Bethany Board Game Reviews.
And today we're going to talk about Scholars of the South Tigris, and this is designed by S.J. McDonald, Shem Phillips. It's published by Garphill Games and Renegade Game Studio. And don't forget to subscribe so you can see our videos as they come out. We do reviews, we do top 10s, we do skits, all sorts of stuff. We do convention vlogs. Make sure to subscribe so you can see all that fun stuff. Ryan.
Alright, so Scholars of the South Tigris takes place during the Golden Age of Islam. Basically, you have all these scrolls that you've collected, but you have to translate them into Arabic. And they're all in Greek, maybe they're in Hebrew, maybe they're in Persian, maybe they're in Sanskrit or Chinese. And you've got to figure out how to get them translated back into Arabic. So you have to pay all these translators. But guess what? Not necessarily anybody can translate easily from Chinese to Arabic directly. So you might have to pay one person to go from Chinese to Persian, and then from Persian to Hebrew, and then from Hebrew to Arabic, or whatever the case is. So you might have to pay a whole series of people. This is a fairly involved game, so I can't do a full rules teach, but let me give you a quick overview of how to play, show you how the things work in this game, and that way you got a good idea of what we're talking about. Alright, the first thing I want to show you is our own personal player boards. We have 4 different actions across the bottom of the board. We have Recruit, we have Travel, we have Research, and we have Translate. We also have a flex position over here, which is a combination of Recruit and Travel. And then later on, we're going to unlock a Research/Translate action as well. All these blue bars across the bottom of these spaces, those are going to be things that are going to happen as kind of an income once we get to the rest phase of our turns. We're going to take as many actions as we can or as we want to, using our dice as our actions, using our cards to kind of activate them. But as soon as you want to kind of refresh everything, that's when you're going to take a rest action, and I'll go over all that in a little bit. All right, we have our deck of action cards. What we're going to do is we're going to choose one of them. Let's just put one down here. We're going to cover up the action that we want to use. We're also going to select some dice as well. By going here, we've given ourselves a little bit extra income during our rest phase, but we're also going to be using the travel action. That's kind of the action that we've selected. The travel action does not require any certain colors of dice. Basically, whatever the pips are on the dice that you use, that's how far you travel. You're going to get some special rewards wherever you land. I will show you on the main board later on that if you do use certain colors and you pass over a certain area of the board that matches that color, you might get a small kind of benefit, like some extra coins or whatever the case is. Over here, we're going to be drafting and recruiting some of our translators. We can either use them to get some special one-time benefits right away, or we can hire them as translators that we're going to be using to translate our different scrolls throughout the game. In that case, you have to pay them some coins, and then you're going to get some benefits as well, but basically they're going to stay out there, and you're going to use them for their translating abilities. And again, I'll show you that on the main board in a little bit. Alright, over here, this is the research action. If we do that, we're going to cover up one of the blue spots on the board, but that's okay. This one's actually a little bit better than what's there anyways. And now, for the first time, the color of the dice does matter. So basically, there are going to be 6 research tracks. There are going to be 3 primary ones. That's going to be the yellow, the red, and the blue. But there's also 3 secondary tracks as well for purple, orange, and green. Alright, so the first thing I want to show you is how the dice interact. So first of all, if we use a dice, we can change that to a 6 by spending the same colored meeple. So, a 2 white dice plus a white meeple equals a 6 white. Similarly, a 1 blue plus a blue meeple, that would equal a blue 6. If you ever place a primary dice with a white dice, the white dice kind of acts as a primary dice now as well. So if we were to do that, this is equal to a 6 white, and this is equal to a 1 blue, so all together this is going to become a 7 blue. We can mix colors into the secondary colors as well. So for instance, if we did this, right now what we have is we have a red 2, we have a blue 1. Now if we mix this together, what we're going to have is we're going to have a purple 3. So again, meeples of the same color turns a dice into that color, a white dice into that color. Meeples of different colors turn that dice into that color. And if there's a secondary dice in play, those are going to be the orange, purple, and green ones. Those are going to take precedence over the primary dice, the yellow, red, and blue. And if you ever have a primary dice with a white dice, those primary colors are going to take over the white dice. So whatever dice you've mixed together, that's the track that you're going to go up on. In this case, we'd go up on the purple track. Final action is the translate action. Now the translate action, those are going to come from cards that are placed on these guilds. And the dice you spend doesn't have to be any certain value, but it does have to be a secondary color, either a purple, orange, or a green. And again, I'll show you all that in the main board in a little bit. What you're going to have to do is you're going to choose one of those cards from one of those guilds, and then you're going to have to figure out how to translate that card into Arabic from whatever language it's in. So let's say you are in Greek. You have to go from Greek possibly to Persian, and then from Persian to Arabic. all along the way paying 1 gold to each translator you had to use. This is basically the main way you're going to get your victory points. That's the most important action of the game. Really quick though, I'm going to show you, everyone at the beginning of the game is going to get a chance to draft some starting cards. You're going to need to draft a starting translator as well as a card matched up with that's going to give you some starting resources, some meeples, some coins, some gold, some dice as well to start your pool off with, and maybe even the opportunity to go up on some research tracks or other benefits. Once you've gathered those things, you're going to place that card there as a reference to kind of show you how the turns are going to work. Also, you're going to get a card over here that's going to give you some kind of a small direction to go at the beginning of the game. Basically, you're going to have a translator that you're able to interact with. If you're ever going to interact with that translator, you get to take that free meeple. And then similarly, if you ever translate something from a purple guild, you're going to get that free meeple. And if you're ever on the level 3 track of that particular research track, you're going to get that free dice. Then this becomes now a new action spot that you can take, a new action card that has a built-in 5 white dice into it, which is nice, as well as a new action spot that you've unlocked. But you're not going to get that until you've cleared that all off. Alright, here is our main board. This is where all your actions are going to take place. Across the bottom here, we have the 10 houses where our translators are going to live. We start the game off with 4 translators. Basically, each person is going to be in charge of one of them. There might end up being some neutral translators as well if you're playing with less than 4 players. Basically, you're going to put one of your influence markers in the top corner to show that that's the person that you've hired. Anyone can use that translator. However, if it has anyone's marker on it, you have to pay them 1 silver in order to use that translator. In the middle of the board here, you can see all of our different research tracks. As you kind of go up and up and up, all the kind of clear bar actions like that, every other one, when you ever land on one of those spots, you immediately take those benefits. Maybe it's some meeples, maybe it's some dice, maybe it's some coins, whatever the case is. The solid bars, though, however, when you land on those, nothing happens immediately. But when you take your rest phase, in addition to getting all of your income off of the bottom of your blue cards, or those blue bars on your personal player board, you're also going to get benefits based off of with the highest level bar that you're overtaking on each track. So for instance, if we'd gotten our track up to here, during our rest phase, we would get 3 coins from that track. Each track kind of has a different theme. Maybe it's based off of coins, maybe it's based off of the gold bars, maybe it's based off of research, or even how many dice you're able to get at the beginning of your next turn. But they all have a different kind of a theme to them. Over here we have the spot where we're going to be traveling. We're traveling around the board. Remember I said you can use any color dice you want, and you're going to travel that many spots. However, there are certain spots of the board that are yellow or green. If you happen to use a yellow or green dice to go around those spots, you're going to get whatever benefits are printed on the board in that colored section. Half the spots are just kind of resources like meeples or dice or gold or whatever the case is, but the other spots are abilities to take the cards that are printed there, the scrolls, and move them over to the guilds. Whenever you want to translate a card, it has to be from one of these guilds over here. So, if you see one that you like over here, you want to try to get it over here so that way you can kind of start working on it. Well, over here, let's talk about the guilds. So there's 3 different guilds, and when you place a card over here and put it over here, you do have to pay some money. It's 4 gold coins, but you're also going to get some benefits. So for instance, each one of these tracks has these little symbols here that gives you influence in that particular guild. So for instance, if you were to place here, you have to pay 4 gold coins, or 4 silver coins, but then you'd get 1 orange influence that you put here in the top, and as well you might get a gold bar. That influence is important because at the end of each round, there's a chance that you might pull a card out called a Caliph card that is going to determine some scoring opportunities and some benefits as well. At the beginning of the game, we kind of staged a little deck here that has a bunch of different new scroll cards as well as Caliph cards mixed in there. What's going to happen is every time one of these travel actions takes place and the card gets moved over here to over here, we're going to draw the top card off the deck, and if it's a scroll, we're going to place it into that area. But if it's a Caliph card, we're going to put it over here, and we're going to have a little scoring round of sorts. Also, whenever someone takes a rest action on their personal player board, the bottom card of that deck is going to be drawn, and we're going to either place that on the board, out into a guild, or again, if it's a Caliph card, we're going to put it over here, and we're going to take one of those Caliph actions. It's also the game timer. Once all 4 of the Caliph cards have been placed over here from the deck of cards, that's going to trigger at the end of the game. We're going to finish that round, take an extra turn, and whoever has the most points wins the game. Alright, we haven't talked about the translators yet. All the translators that you're able to draft are right across the top there. They can be used in one of 2 ways. You can either just pay the dice values. The easy ones over here are 1, then 3, then 5, then 7. They do not have to be of any certain dice color. What you're going to do is you can just pay the dice value, and the values that are printed on the top right section of each board, you can take those immediately, and then what you're going to do is you're going to take that card and bottom it to the deck. Each person has the same artwork on each deck, but they do slightly different things. So for instance, if we were to take this person, what we could do is we could pay the 1 value dice, and then we would be able to add a new red dice to our bag, as well as take a coin. But then what we would do is we would put this at the bottom of that deck. The second and more important way that you can interact with them is you can hire them. So in that case, you do the same thing. You pay the dice value. But then what you're going to do is you're going to choose one of these open rooms that is available. You're going to pay whatever dice or the coins are in the top left of that section. But then you're going to get the rewards in the right section. So if I were to put this card here, I'd flip it over. I'd pay 4 coins. I'd get to go up on any one of the research tracks. Put this coin here, or this guy here. Put my marker to show that I'm the one who hired it. And now that person's ready to be used for translating. All right, that's kind of a quick overview of how to play. I know there's a lot going on here, but the main thing you want to focus on is getting your translators in place, getting cards that are going to work together, and try to translate them. Remember, you have to get everything into Arabic. So if you have a card that says you want to go from Sanskrit, you have to translate a Sanskrit scroll. Maybe you have to pay this person a gold to go from Sanskrit to Persian. But then you might have to pay this person a gold as well to go from Persian to Arabic. The points are going to come from a variety of ways. The tracks themselves have points on them, so the higher up on each track you go, the more points you're going to get. If you're able to retire one of your translators, they're going to get tucked under your board and give you extra actions. So for instance, if I were able to retire this person, meaning there's 2 gold coins here, or 2 gold bars here, if this person ever has 2 gold bars on them, that means they retire at the end of that age. And if I was the person who had hired them, then I'm going to be able to tuck this card underneath my player board, and now every time I take a certain action, I'm going to be able to take additional actions as well. And also it's going to be worth some victory points as well. So those are going to be what's going to happen when you retire one of your translators. Also the scrolls themselves. The scrolls themselves have a base value. This one says it's worth 2 points by itself. However, it has some stuff in the middle. This one says if you are higher up on that yellow research track, if you're between 4 and 6, you're going to get 2 extra points. Or if you're all the way at the top, which is a 7, you're going to get 4 additional points. Plus, it has some kind of immediate benefits. This one says immediately go up on the yellow track. So it kind of helps itself in order to achieve its own goals. So that's going to be where a lot of your points come from. Some of those interact with other types of things. Like, for instance, this one over here says it by itself is worth 3 points. But for each Sanskrit and Syriac scroll that you've completed, you're going to get 1 additional point. So you might want to stack those in a way that you're going to get a lot of points by things interacting. You also get some points from the Caliph cards across the top there by having the most amount of influence in those areas. And also there's an area majority kind of thing going on with those different guilds as well. And you're going to get some small amount of points at the end of the game for those also. So you add up all those points from all those different sources, and whoever has the most points wins the game.
One of the things that I thought was fairly unique to this, as opposed to other Euro games that I play, there's these tracks and they're going up and you're gathering resources. So as the game is progressing, it's not that you don't necessarily have all the resources that you need, but you have a pretty quick avenue to get them. I never felt like I was going to have to take turn after turn after turn to get this one thing so I could take this one action. I felt like I had access to all the materials that I needed. And even if I didn't have it in my supply, like I said, I would be able to get it pretty easily, and I thought that was kind of unique. I didn't feel like I was scraping for the resources that I needed in order to play certain things, and that's because these tracks that you have are always going up and giving you more opportunities, giving you more resources as you play, and I kind of like that. As a person who is very adverse to like the feed your people thing, because that stresses me out, the fact that I felt like I had what I needed or an easy avenue to get it made it easier for me to play this game.
So bag building is a big part of this game. I didn't even really get a chance to touch on that during the teaching section of the video. But bag building, if you're unfamiliar, it's kind of like deck building. You start with a really weak set of cubes or dice, or whatever the case is. In this game, it's obviously dice. And you're trying to draft stronger and stronger dice and get rid of the weaker and weaker dice as the game goes on. So that's kind of how deck building works, and that's how this game works as well. So when you're doing your actions, you start off with just a ton of white dice. If you're lucky, you have maybe 1 or 2 of the primary dice. And then as you get a chance to roll them, and then when you take a rest phase, you're going to kind of have to refresh your hand, draw new dice out of the bag, put the old dice that you used back in the bag, and draw back up to your hand limit, we'll call it. But basically, there's that final track that tells you how many dice you get to start each round with. And so that's how this game is all driven. It's driven by the action cards that you use to place on the action spots, as well as by the strength of the pips and the colors of the dice that you use to put on those things in order to drive the whole thing. I love the dice. I like the bag building. It's just a unique way of kind of feeling these actions.
I really liked how, so you have these translators, like we mentioned, it's like basically what the game is based around. and you're paying them to do it. Now, you think you have a system set up. You finally got somebody there so that you can pay them, so you can translate this thing. And look, there's like 3 different scripts that are in Persian, and you have this dude, and he does Persian to Arabic. What an easy one to do. But guess what? He only gets used once, and then he retires. And now you have to get a new person out there to do all that, or bounce through all these people to get things translated. But you get his special goodie if you had influence, so there's that going for you.
Special goodie. I don't want his special goodie.
Yes, you do.
I guess I do.
But I really liked how you can pull people down at the bottom of the board, but that's not it. They're going to be leaving eventually, and you're going to have to continue to pull people down, or even just search for people when there's text available that nobody can even translate. And so you need to draft these people, but it's not always a bad thing when they retire, because then you get access to
Their special goodie.
the benefits that come with that character. I just liked the pull and tug of that. The tug and pull. How's that phrase?
The push and pull?
Push and pull.
I don't know. Okay, so there's a lot of dominoes that need to be set up in order to make the translating of a scroll happen. So first, you need to have the right colored dice. So that way you have, you can pull from one of those guilds. It's going to be one of the secondary, the higher tier dice, one of the orange, purple, or green. And then on top of that, you need to make sure that you have the right scroll there that you wanted to translate. And then you have to make sure that you have all the different people that you need out there. So you have something that goes from the right language to the right language to the right language all the way down to Arabic. And then you actually have enough gold to pay everybody. So there's just a lot of dominoes that need to be set up, a lot of different things.
And you have to have the right dice to go there.
Exactly. So you have to have all the right things cascading in order to make sure that happens. Every once in a while, this magical thing happens where you just like look at the board, you're like, hey, I've got that, and everybody I need is already there, and it happens. But more than likely, you're going to have to work towards that. And so I like how the game kind of incentivizes you to pull people down there to hire them, even though you have the full knowledge that maybe Bethany is going to use them as well. It's still important that you put them there because there's incentives to put them down there in the form of research tracks or gold bars or whatever the case is. So I like how they want you to put them down there. You have to spend time and actions doing it. Other people might use them as well, but ultimately you want them for yourself so that way you can ultimately translate the scrolls you need.
Yeah, so the gameplay is pretty quick for the majority of the game, but not the entirety of the game.
No. Every once in a while we have those rest phases. They can be long, right? So you have these really quick turns, and then all of a sudden you have a 5-minute rest phase where you're gathering a ton of different resources from a ton of different tracks, and that halts the game down. And also, if you're playing with a 3-4 player game, because of the way that the pacing of the game kind of, especially early on, everyone's kind of on the same pace. If you're the 4th player in that row, you're going to have to watch one person do a rest phase, the next person do a rest phase, the next person to do a rest phase. You just sat for 15 minutes doing nothing, waiting for your turn to come around. So that is something to keep an eye on as you're playing this game. Those rest phases can get a little tedious, so try to make them quick. Try to kind of gather up, help each other out. You know, when Beth and I were doing it, we would be like, okay, so grab 2 gold, grab a coin, grab whatever the case is. Yeah, and that really helped out. Also, the rulebook, this is a long one, you know. It's laid out nicely, and there's a really great reference in the back that has all the different symbols. But it's a long rulebook. If you're not used to reading those longer rulebooks, make sure you watch a video like this one, or that you kind of take some time to set it up ahead of time and walk through things. That way you're ready to teach your game group, because it's a more involved rulebook than games that maybe you might be playing.
So how do you really feel about it, Bethany? I know that's what you're wondering. And here's the deal. If I had played this in 2023, it would have 100% been on my top 10 list. This was so much fun. My favorite style is that like light to medium Euro. That's like where I live. I really love hanging out. But when I get to play medium to heavy Euros with an excellent and fantastic teacher that makes it very easy for me, I'm able to really get into that, and I really enjoy it. And this one was one of those. I had so much fun with it. It was very straightforward. I was able to understand it. I had a really good time with this one.
I agree. This is super, super solid. The box has 60 to 90 minutes. I feel like that's once you're very familiar with the game, maybe. But guess what? Even if it is pushing 2 hours or whatever the case is, you're having fun the whole time. I mean, this game is great. This is truly a great game. I enjoyed every bit of this thing. This is a game that we're keeping in our collection and playing for a long time.
Everybody, thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe so you can see our videos as they come out. Until then, you can find us in all of these places.
You guys, thanks for watching, and we will see you next time. Bye.
Bye.
You guys, thanks for watching our shenanigans. As always, we appreciate it. Over here, if you follow this link, you're going to find a playlist we've hand-selected, handcrafted just for you because you watched this video.
And if you check over here, this is a video that YouTube thinks you might like. So you can check that out if you want as well.
All right, we appreciate it, guys. Thanks so much for watching, and we will see you next time.
Bye.